Today we're going to be taking a look at the Clore marketplace, and we're actually going to be trying to rent some hash power, similar to what you would do on like Nice Hash, and see if we can mine some Pigeoncoin. We hop on over to Clore AI, and we scroll down a little bit. We can see they have a marketplace, and you can also become a host. Today we're just going to use the marketplace, and I've already registered an account, and I've already funded it with 25 US dollars. If you don't have an account, just register for an account. You can fund it either with a credit card or by sending Bitcoin. Now, one of the important things, if we hop on over to the marketplace, there's two kind of different channels you can take. There's a secure cloud, which is more for businesses, a more structured implementation of kind of the providers that are on that side. And there's a community cloud, and this is where individuals like you and I can actually provide our own resources and rent them out. So I'm going to be using the community one. And over here it's going to pop up and it's going to show you kind of all the different devices, what the cost is. And one of the important things here is when you fund your account, you either fund it with Bitcoin or you fund it with US dollars. I didn't find any way to swap those. And so when I funded with a credit card, it ended up being US dollars. And so I'm only looking at the US dollar providers. Now, if you fund it with Bitcoin, you're going to see a whole lot more providers that will meet your criteria. But for me, we're just going to stick with USD. And you can kind of control what you see here. Right now I have this sorted price low to high, and we can kind of see what is sitting out here. So we can rent, it looks like 420/70s for $8 a day, and you're essentially renting this entire system. And so let's just start with, we'll go ahead and do the 420/70s. We're going to say rent. And here you have a few options. You can pretty much use any Docker image you want. But one of the really cool things is you can do Dynex directly. You can also do meme hash. Or you can do HiveOS, which is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to click HiveOS, and here we're going to see a couple options. We need a rig ID, a rig password, and a farm hash. And so what I'm going to do is I've already created a rig in HiveOS, and I've named this Clore rented. But let's go ahead and we're going to just hop on over to this. If you haven't done this yet, all you need to do is just do, go back to your farm and go to workers, add to worker, do add rigs GPU, do connect existing, and we're going to go ahead and just rename this thing to Clore demo. Hit update worker. And here it's going to give us our farm hash. We're going to go ahead and copy that. Head back on over to the marketplace. We want to put that in the farm hash. Now on our rig ID, we need to grab that ID. Go ahead and paste that in. And we also need to go to the overview tab, and we need to copy this password as well. Once you have those copied, here you're going to see the init script. It's going to just kind of have that information. So it's going to have the rig ID, it's going to have the password, it's going to have the farm hash. And you can choose to port forward some ports here. I'm not going to do that because I should be able to manage everything from within the HiveOS dashboard. And I'm not going to need to SSH into this system or anything like that. If you do want that, you actually do have that capability. But we're just going to go down, we're going to say create. And here we can see it is currently deploying it. And if we click show logs here, we can actually see the real-time log. So right now, it's actually downloading the HiveOS Docker container that Clore AI hosts. And we're just waiting for that full container to download onto the system. And then it's going to do the Docker run. And then once it's booted up, it's going to run that init script, which should have it automatically pop up into our own Hive OS instance, where we're going to be able to manage the rig, launch flight sheets, things like that. Alright, and once we see this bottom line, this GUID at the bottom, this means that the container has started, so we can just hit this little icon at the top, and we can see the image started. This was about 3 minutes ago. And if we head on over to Hive OS, give this a refresh, we now see that Clore demo, and it looks like their system actually has 6 GPUs, but 2 of them are bad. And so we have 4 good 2070s. And here we can see we also have 12 CPU threads. And realistically, I should be able to launch a flight sheet on this. Let's go ahead and close this. And you can see that on this scenario, we actually rented 6 2070s, but we only have 4 functional. So that is one of the things you need to be on a lookout for. But let's go ahead and start hashing away. Now, if you didn't want to use this, you could just come in, cancel order, and you're basically paying the setup fee. Here you can see my total spend so far has been 5 cents. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to go ahead and launch a flight sheet, even though we only have, 4 available GPUs here. Let's do flight sheet, and let's see what happens. So we're going to go ahead and launch, this flight sheet I will duplicate. And edit this thing, and let's adjust our threads here to 11. And let's go ahead and launch it and see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't hang on those 2 failed GPUs. We've got 2 that are in malfunction. Now, I'm unsure why, but it's not showing hash rates for either of the miners. However, it is actually hashing. So if I do miner actions and I do miner log, I don't know if it's something specific with 2070s or if it's something with this machine or just kind of how, I don't know how they're running the Docker container. But if we take a look at this log, we can see we got a bunch of accepted shares, but we're also getting a bunch of low difficulty shares. And we are getting hash rate on the 4 GPUs. We can see they're pulling a bunch of power, but it is actually kicking us out of our community pool with too many rejects. And so we're getting a little bit lower hash rate there. And that is just kind of one of the things is we're not able to see the hash rate here. Another thing that's kind of scary is if you are hosting a GPU with them, I, as a end user, as a client, I have full access over power. Right? I could crank this thing up to the max. So you have to make sure that you're kind of allocated for your power. I mean, I could crank the fans up, it could get loud. There's a couple weird things there with it. But because things aren't really working that well, I'm going to go ahead and head back over to Clore AI. And I am going to cancel this order. I'm going to say there's an issue with the server. And I'm going to say 2 GPUs are flagged as malfunctioning. I'm going to say cancel order. It says it'll be canceled in 60 seconds. And while I'm waiting for that to cancel, I'm going to do a new order. Basically going to do the same process again. And we just want USD. And we should already be price low to high. So the 62070s don't show right now because I actually rented them. They're currently in use, so we don't have to worry about accidentally rebuying the same thing again. But we're just going to go ahead and go with this 62060 rig. We're going to do Hive OS again. And then we're going to grab our rig information. And this one's actually still online. So I'm going to go over to my other one. Oops, and it looks like... yeah, they're still not hashing away. So let's go to the Clore rented one. And let's grab this ID. Our farm hash is still going to be the same. Let's grab that rig ID. And let's grab that password. And we're going to say create. And we're going to let this one deploy. If I get back to my orders, show expired orders, I guess. Here we can see that that original order did get canceled. It looks like it went red, so I'm assuming that means canceled. The image is deployed. Let's see if that rig is offline now. Yep, so that rig has been offline for 2 minutes. So awesome. And while we're waiting for this to deploy, I can show you over on the pool that it was hashing. It was just hashing at a pretty low hash rate for a 2070. Pull up the logs. Okay, the image has started. Hop on over here. Refresh this in a couple minutes. Oops, it's already up. And here we go. So this one looks a lot better. We've got 6 2060s. Let's go ahead and launch the same flight sheet. Actually, let's make sure the CPUs are still 12 threads. They should be. Yep. So let's go ahead and launch that same flight sheet. And one of the things I'm noticing when you do this through Clore is that it looks like however they're running the Docker container, there's no systemd, so you might not be able to actually apply overclocks. So in this scenario, I'm not trying to overclock anything. I'm leaving everything at stock clocks. However, it is actually failing to install one of the miners. I think it's because it's trying to run them both in parallel. So that is an issue when you're trying to dual mine. And the other thing that looks like it's happening is it's failing to apply any type of overclocks. So if you wanted to overclock this to optimize your hash rate, you're unable to. And you can see here insufficient permissions. It looks like it's not deploying the Docker container with the right elevated permissions to run the NV tool. So keep that in mind. Alright, we did finally get this to show our hash rate, and one of the things I had to do is I had to issue a miner restart on the CPU miner because it tried installing both at the same time and it couldn't. And it looks like just because of how that Docker container is set up. And so all I had to do miner restart, and it installed the missing miner, and then all the hash rates come up. I'm not sure why the one hash rate, like the GPU hash rate, doesn't come up if the CPU is not mining. It's really odd. But that is now up, and we are mining Pigeoncoin at 35 mega hash. Each of those GPUs is getting around 6.2. And the CPU, we've got 12 mega hash on Varus. And let's just see if we can tweak one of these GPUs. Let's say I wanted to add 100 to the core. Here we can see an error. And basically telling us that we can't set it. It looks like it did set the offset. It just won't set the fan or the mem or the power limit. Super odd. So let's see if that bumped up our hash rate. Looks like it did to about 6.4. Come over here, give this a refresh. We can see it is still ramping up, but we are hashing away. So obviously I do have concerns if you're a provider that, anybody could ramp up your fans, they could ramp up your power. In fact, let's try that. Let's see what happens if I try to set the fan speed to 80%, if it actually changes it. Alright, it looks like it did not change the fan speed. So here, where it says insufficient permissions to change the fan speed, and you can't change a power limit. However, it did let me change the core clock. So you are going to be able to push it a little bit higher than what it would be by default. So overall, it is really cool that you can essentially spin up a HiveOS container, get it hashing away, and kind of have full control over what is deployed, right? You don't have to worry about deploying to a specific algo. It kind of gives you full control over what you can do, and actually loads it into your HiveOS instance. Now, one thing to keep in mind, because it does load it into your HiveOS instance, this will charge you if you have more than 4 rigs. So keep that in mind, that on top of what you're paying Clore AI to rent, you're also going to have to pay the HiveOS fee as if you added an additional rig to your system. Just something to keep in mind. It is cool that you can come in here. You can pretty much rent that thing for... some of these have max durations of 30 to 90 days. So you want to check that if you're trying to do this thing long term. But for the price, I definitely wouldn't do it long term. I mean, right now we are paying $10 a day for, 6 2060s? So if we headed on over to hashrate.no and we went to the GPU calculator and we plugged in some 2060s. We're going to do 6 of those. And we're going to look at revenue because power doesn't matter. Let's sort by revenue. So right now, that revenue is only $1.61 a day. Now, obviously, we didn't factor Varus into this. So if we head on over to what to mine, take a look at the Varus calculator. We are getting... What are we getting on Varus? 13, 12.94. So we're also getting an additional 47 cents on the CPU. So you're still looking at like $2.10 of crypto that you're pretty much earning if we were mining Ironfish. However, we're paying $10 a day to do that. So keep that in mind if you are trying to use this thing for mining that right now it's not that profitable. It'll be interesting to see how the providers adjust their prices as they move forward into closer to like the Bitcoin halving and the bull market, to see how much those prices spike. Because $10 a day for this, if we were looking at $50,000 Bitcoin, is wildly different than what we're at right now with $27,000 Bitcoin. Right? We could easily be profiting off of that. So it'd be interested to see what they do closer to as the price appreciates on mining, and how the prices on this marketplace adjust. But that's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to let this hash away for quite a while, mining to our community Pigeoncoin mining pool, and we'll just we'll add some hash rate to the network, and we'll see where it lands. I'll probably let this run for a day or so.